Hello, welcome to Loot Level Chat, the podcast from Loot Level Chill. I'm your host, Mick Fraser, and I'm back with Kieran Singh.
Hello.
And Chris White.
Hello.
So, yeah, a bit of a random lineup tonight because we haven't got Lyle, we haven't got Steve. We missed last week because I was out of the country and various things got in the way. It happens, but we're back to talk about some games. We've got recurring special guest star Chris White with us. He's going to talk about a couple of things he's been reviewing and playing, and Kieran's going to talk about. Well, I haven't really got anything. I can talk about one of them. The other two I know very little about beyond the titles. I know the genre of one, so we'll see how we go. But yeah, how is everybody? How are we getting on?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Yeah, good.
It's been a good day, I think.
Has it?
Just I've been busy, been working, but good work. Not a bad day at work, so I can't complain.
That's fair. Yeah, I had a week off. I had a week and a day off, and then I've been back yesterday and today, so I'm sort of back in the swing of it now.
Nice.
It's been a good couple of days for game announcements. I saw Dead Zone Rogue 2 has popped up on Steam, and there's a demo coming. Have you played Dead Zone Rogue?
Is that the one that you played on your holiday?
Yeah. It's a roguelike shooter. And when I first played it, I reviewed it, I think. Or maybe I did an early access thing. I can't remember. But I liked it, but I found it like really quite hard when it first came out, and it was quite limited where the progression was concerned. But I've just been playing it because I went away and took the Steam Deck, and our hotel had the worst Wi-Fi because I was going to play Diablo 4. That's what I got ready to go and play. I was going to go, but our hotel had atrocious Wi-Fi, so I ended up sort of playing random stuff. And I thought I'll jump into Dead Zone Rogue and found that it had difficulty levels added and like a new zone and all this stuff. So I got into it, and it's bloody great. It's got some really, really, really good shooting. And pretty decent level design and stuff. Yeah, it's really good. It's like sci-fi. It's like a bit doomy, but with sort of robots. Although, like towards the end, there's like alien goo everywhere and mutants and stuff, and it's quite good. But so they just announced the second one of that, and then we had the surprise-ish announcement of. I think we knew Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 was coming.
I don't remember, to be honest.
I'm sure
I saw that's been announced.
Yeah, I'm sure we knew it was coming. Like they'd said, yeah, we're working on it. But now they've dropped some trailers and said, no, it's coming soon. It's like summer this year. So I'm guessing summer usually means August-ish. So I'm presuming it'll be an August drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Delayed.
Yeah, so quite excited about that. And then I just found out today that Warhammer Skulls is on the 21st of May, which is probably tomorrow at the time you're watching this and listening to this, I think.
What's that one?
So that's where Warhammer Games Workshop do their video game showcase. So they'll show all new trailers for things that are already coming, and then they'll announce a load of stuff usually. Like last year, they announced that Dark Heresy, and they announced the DLC for Space Marine 2 and the Total War game and all this sort of stuff. And then on Bolt Gun 2 was announced last year at Skulls, I believe. So then this year, God knows what's coming. You never know with Games Workshop because there's always so much Warhammer stuff all the time. And even if you're on the fringes of it, if you're not into it, it's so much Warhammer all the time. It's like there'll be stuff you don't expect. There's always a couple of announcements that are left field, like Bolt Gun originally was and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Last year's was brilliant, just a great showcase. So I'm hoping it's good this year, and they've got some new stuff because we know a lot of it. Because there's Dawn of War, that's soon, and then that's competing with the new Total War Warhammer 40k, which I don't think they've done before. Dawn of War, this is like the fourth Dawn of War. But I think Warhammer 40k or Total War Warhammer 40k, they've done Total War Warhammer for years, but I don't think they've done a 40k Total War yet, which everyone's been clamoring for. So looking forward to that. So what have we actually been playing? We've actually been playing a little game called, and it is a little game. It's a very little game. In fact, there's very little game in the very little game as well, if we're honest. But it's lovely. What's there is lovely. We've been playing Mixtape. I don't know if Kieran's played it, but I know for a fact Chris has. And I've played about 2.5 hours of it, which is probably more than half of the actual runtime. I think it's about 3 or 4 hours long.
Yeah, it felt like a lot shorter to me, but I think it is about 2.5, 3 hours. And before we get into it, I do have to say, like you mentioned about the kind of the dialogue, like I had to really take my dad hat off when playing this as well, because I kept thinking, like, if my kids were like that, like, you're talking about things like you've got no idea about, but it's that kind of teenagers know everything, the world's ending, that kind of thing. But like, I think back to when I used to watch like things like Dawson's Creek, and the way they spoke, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But I kind of just tried to gloss over that. But like in terms of the game itself, it's a game built around a soundtrack.
Yeah.
And how it uses that soundtrack to tell the story. And it follows 3 friends like Stacey, Slater, and Cass. And Stacey's about to go to New York and leave her kind of youth behind, and that's kind of the premise. And she's going to go and she wants to become a music supervisor, which is someone who curates soundtracks for things, and so she's done that for the last night of her time with her friends. And it is very limited in what gameplay there is. It felt like a bunch of like 1 minute, 2 minute mini games laced together by this narrative, but the way they use music like is incredible. And there's going to be people that will never have heard of bands like Judas and Mary Chain and David Gray and even Silverchair and whatnot, but like the songs they've used are excellent. And like Joy Division as well, that's the use of a Joy Division track, which if you watch Stranger Things you might be familiar with the song. But I just really loved how like nostalgia is such a thing in games. Like it can be whether you play like a game you played 20 years ago and they've remastered it, or whether the setting is something that you remember as a kid. But I just felt the nostalgia, the way they dealt with nostalgia, was more on a kind of memory level. Like you remember those kind of situations of going out and getting drunk with your friends, or the things they would talk about, finding solace in areas where you used to hang around when you were a kid and nothing else mattered other than like your friendship and your life at that very point in time. Nothing could ever be more important. And then obviously you grow older and you look back and you realize that's not the case. But at that time, it's like it means everything. But I just really loved, like, the art style was really good. I loved how it's got that kind of like 15 frames per second, almost like the Into the Spider-Verse kind of animation, and the way it kind of, this world where they're living seems huge because of like the draw distances and stuff in the settings. And like the very first part of the game where you're skateboarding down that like roadside, like overlooking like the mountains and stuff, it's like insane. And then it builds into like this dreamlike kind of idea of like having all that freedom, and the way they kind of portray that through the visuals is really smart. And I just kind of, there's not tons to talk about because I feel like it's a lot easier to just experience it. It's not like we're talking about this 40-hour RPG or whatever, but it's very straightforward. Like I say, the kind of gaming moments, you might be like playing baseball, you might be making a slushie, for instance, or like I say, skateboarding, flying through the air, and all kinds of stuff. It's ways to tether the story together. And then like towards the end, when their night starts to draw to a close, it's very kind of like poignant, and it reminds me of when that happened to me. Like not that I moved away, but like you move away from that part of your life. And that was kind of the thing that drew me to like the story and how I kind of enjoyed it. But yeah.
So I liked why. So right, this is the thing about that sort of game. So it's not my sort of thing anyway, right? So like at a very basic level, I was bored of the gameplay, right? Yeah. And I did get bored of it. Like I was sort of sitting there because because it's a game with no stakes. Like it's not a game about stakes, and that's fine because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I always kind of wanted, for the whole time I was playing, I was waiting for, and this is on me as much, probably more than the game, but I was waiting for the conflict. And I know there's like a tiny thing between like Stacey and Cass, and there's this like that, you know, and you've got this thing where she's kind of sort of almost living in the shadow of her older sister, but it's such a very minor sort of through line. And I kind of kept wanting the game to go somewhere with something. Do you know what I mean? Like I wanted that, it's very heartfelt, and I struggle with, so I've always struggled with that kind of dialogue in everything. And it, like I said before, it's very much deliberately of a time. I mean, you watch Stranger Things, for example, the modern example of it. Nobody talks. No one ever talked the way those children talk to each other. And like, it was always the same way when we watched like films like Scream, for example, Kevin Williamson and the stuff Joss Whedon used to write before he was cancelled and whatever. But like that and like John Hughes, you know, the old 80s films like Fast Times and things like that. I think the example I gave you the other day was like Heathers. I don't know if you remember Heathers with Christian Slater. And it's that level of like, no one ever spoke like that. But it was more of a way to convey, how do you convey everything that's going on in an angsty teenager's mind? Like you say, teenagers know everything. They have all the answers, even if they don't. And that kind of dialogue is a great way to sort of translate that, because a lot of what they say is nonsense. It's like you could have said what you just said in 3 words instead of 20 words, but it's cool and it has a rhythm to it, and it evokes sort of a time period. But the thing I found with this game, the thing that niggled at me the most with this game while I was playing it was not necessarily, and I don't mind like a low level of gameplay, because there's some elements in this game that I really loved, like the fantasy element of it, because this is not like, it's not a real life. This is almost, it's like her memory of this is blowing this out of proportion.
Yeah, of course.
Like the bit when they're running through the fields and they're jumping in the wind, and it's like, it's absolute fantasy, but it's lovely. And because it's all played against one of the best soundtracks probably curated for a video game in a long time, it all works. It's all wonderful. But I had small issues with the anachronistic elements, because it's very much a game that it's almost set in every year of the 1980s and 1990s. Like I don't think it ever says what year it's specifically set in, and I feel like that's a deliberate choice. There's a couple of things where they said things. There's a point where one of the characters says, I think Stacey herself says that something is trending, like she's on about skateboard, and she's like, boards are trending thin or something. And it's like, that's a very modern, like nothing was trending in the 80s. That trending comes from like now, that comes from social media. It comes from, and me and Adam had the exact same complaint about rewinding the tape with a pencil, because you re-spool a tape with a pencil, but you rewind the tape with the rewind button. Like, that's not a thing. And it's like, how many people that wrote this game and worked on this game were even in the 80s and 90s? And it feels like, and to me, a lot of the time, I kind of felt like it was more because everybody from the ages of like 10 to 40 is now nostalgic for the 1980s because of Stranger Things. Like, they weren't there. They didn't necessarily experience this, but Stranger Things has done something that was created this magic where everybody is kind of nostalgic for this period of time. And we've seen it before with different things, like people when I was younger were all nostalgic for how great the 60s were or whatever, and it's just a natural societal thing. But it was a weird thing for me in this game that like a lot of the stuff you're looking at feels very late 80s, early 90s, but then you have things like Stacey's got stacks of burned CDs, and it's like, that was kind of a late 90s, early noughties thing. That wasn't like a thing we were doing in 1992 or not. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and for a time, I think what happened was when I was playing it, I was hung up on those things, and that's probably, I don't know whether that's a critic mind or what, or if I was just in that frame of mind, or if I'm just that sort of nitpicky person. But that was what was bugging me while I was playing this game, was like where are we? Like, I get that we're in this fantasy Americana, which never really existed for anybody, but the whole point of this game is that it picks, like, you're going to relate to something. Like, everybody who was around, everyone who's been a teenager relates to something in this game, which I think is a very clever way of doing it. And I think setting it in the 19 whatevers, 80s through 90s, is also a very clever thing to do, because 1980s is the thing at the moment. That's what everybody is kind of into. Everybody wants that aesthetic. Everybody seems to believe that the 1980s and the 1990s were this incredibly magical time. England in the 1990s was not like this. England in the 1990s was pretty much like it is now. It was rain, and it was fish and chips, and it was recessions and Thatcher and fucking racism, and it wasn't what you get from like a John Hughes film. It wasn't, we didn't have Breakfast Club here. We had, go and watch This Is England. Go watch that. Yes. And that's what we had here. So it's difficult to bridge that gap. But I get it. I do get it. And I also don't want to be super negative on the people that, like yourself, like you did feel that way about this game, because it's a very, very specific type of nostalgia that this game's going for. And if you're a music lover, if you've been a music lover all through your life, like I have, like you have, you will have those songs that you've clung to for fucking 35 years or whatever. So I get it, but there were little things in it that just held me back from like just getting into it. And I think that a lot of that was because, to me, some of it almost felt like a hook that they were using to pull people in, rather than that's just what it was. I don't know if that sounds, arsey or stupid, but that's how I felt with it. I just kind of felt like a lot of it was nostalgia bait for me. Like when you can poke around Stacey's room and like everything in the 80s and 90s she owns one of, and it's like little things like that I was like, I like this. It's pleasant, and it's got a lovely soundtrack, and it looks great. And what little gameplay there is works fine. Like the little bits, like the shopping trolley chase with the police and stuff, that was great fun, and like I enjoyed that. But yeah, for me, there was a little bit of a disconnect. But that's just me. I'm a grumpy bastard.
I've played. So. Go on, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think it also depends on what you kind of grew up with and what kind of things you used to watch as a kid. And like I say, the music, if the music hadn't have been as good, or like the songs, I didn't know at least some of them, it would not have had that same connection. But it's like in any film you watch or any TV show, when there's a song that you love, it connects you to it infinitely more than it would do if you didn't. I think that helped a lot, especially at the very beginning when it drew me in with some of the songs like I really liked. But I was bordering on like a 9, and then when it ended, the way it ended, I thought it was like done spectacularly. I think that kind of completed the experience. And I kind of went in playing it, because obviously we got it a little bit later, and the scores were already out and the reviews were already out. And I was determined not to just follow the herd or whatever. But like it just genuinely, I did just find it fascinating. And there are like disconnects, definitely. Even with me, like there were times where I'm like, oh, for God's sake, rolling my eyes at something that someone said or whatever. But I think that was more the dad hat on and stuff.
Yeah.
But I tried to kind of see past that, and I don't know. I just enjoyed it quite a lot. So
it's a game where I can understand the 10s fully. I think I'd have probably landed about 8.5 maybe if I'd been reviewing it, but I get the 10s. I fully understand.
Yeah.
It's I thought I've only played about half an hour. I really like what I played so far. Like the music, like you said, is really good. I don't actually know, like I know all the bands or most of the bands that are in it. I don't actually know any of the tracks, because I've had a little look at the full soundtrack. I don't recognize any of the tracks in there, but that first Devo track as you're going down the road on the skateboard, that whole moment, like that is just fucking fantastic. I thought it was such a good opening to the game. And I love the way as well. Like I know it's not like a gameplay or mechanic heavy game, but I really like the way that it's at times the editing of it is almost like a movie or a TV show. Like the bit in the car, for example, when it's it's jumping between camera angles when they're tapping on the side of the door and stuff. I love all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, I've only played half an hour, but I know for a fact that I'm going to love. Well, I love it already. Like what I played was just gorgeous, and I'm really excited to play more of it. I loved. I don't know. Did either of you play The Artful Escape?
Yeah, I reviewed it.
Yeah, I never played
Yeah,
The Artful
yeah.
Escape. Yeah,
I love that game. I thought that was
it's very good.
It was so good.
Another great use of music and gameplay, kind of fusing together really well.
Yeah, exactly. So I sort of knew what to expect to some extent of what was coming into this. It was never going to be like heavy on like even The Artful Escape was like, I think it was technically a platformer, but there wasn't really much beyond jumping over the occasional gap, was there?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just loved it. It's like what I've seen so far is amazing, and I can fully understand the tens.
I mean, what I like about the soundtrack and what's quite clever, you touched on it then when you said like you know a lot of the bands, but you didn't know the tracks. Like this is an indie game. I know they're an indie studio, but Annapurna have obviously been around for a while. There's obviously some money bankrolled into this for licensed tracks in the first place, right? It's not. It doesn't look or sound like a cheap, like I say cheap, like a low budget game. But what I found interesting about the soundtrack was I unequivocally loved every song on this soundtrack. There were quite a few of these songs that I'd never heard before, but I knew the band. Some of the songs I'd heard. But this would have been a really easy thing to just like pluck songs like, this is a famous 80s song. This is another famous 80s song. This was big in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? And it does the thing that Stranger Things does really well, where it doesn't necessarily take... Like, I know Stranger Things has got a lot of its... It's got more than its fair share of big games, big songs that everybody knows. But it also did things like, it did Running Up That Hill by Kate Moss, which was not the most famous Kate Moss song. If you asked anybody what the most famous Kate Moss,
I was waiting for that.
Kate Bush. I know where I got Kate Moss from. Moss Bush, I can understand it. Yeah, Kate Bush song. They'd probably say Wuthering Heights, but like they picked Running Up That Hill, which was a very famous song then. It's not something that gets a lot of airtime now. And I like that Mixtape did something similar like that. Like the soundtrack is not, let's pick a famous song and then make a scene around it. It was more, this is what the story is, and this particular song suits that. And I know that like it's quite interesting that Stacey's going off to be a music producer or music supervisor, in New York. And this is the job of the music supervisor, is to pick the songs that fit the moment when you're making a film or a trailer or a TV show or whatever. And I thought it's just a really clever way of integrating the music. And it's one of those things that I think is going to open up a lot of people to, like a lot of younger people today, introduce them to some of that like really, really awesome music that a lot of us older people remember. Like that was what was big at the time. It wasn't, it wasn't all, I don't want to embarrass myself by trying to name on bands like, Sabrina Carpenter or whatever, but like that, it wasn't all that. It was a lot more experimental, and it was a lot more, the music was riskier then, and it was a lot more, everything was kind of niche to some extent. Yeah. And I just like that. I just think that's what I really like about the soundtrack. It's a 10 out of 10 soundtrack. I didn't love the game as much as some people, but I liked what I played.
Yeah.
But and so you've been playing a game that is, I won't say similar, but it's
on the same sort of lines. It's very music.
You could kind of link the themes if you really wanted to, because you've been playing Waxheads, which I assumed, as I always assume when I hear the title of games that I've never seen, I assumed this was like some kind of, I don't know, cozy horror game or a walk-in simulator with like killer wax museum dolls or something, and it's not that at all. So
no, although I would play that. That sounds quite cool, actually.
Well, yeah. So tell us what it actually is, because I don't know.
Waxheads, you'll know Waxheads by the genre that it is, because it is the cozy punk game, if you remember.
Okay.
We spoke about it on one of the I think it was the Steam Next Fest episode. Yeah, so Waxheads, it's cozy punk, like narrative adventure where you work in a record shop, and it's by day you're sort of flogging records to the customers that are coming in, and in between shifts you're sort of learning about the backstory. There's quite a lot of backstory around like the owner of the shop, and she was part of this big pop group like years and years and years ago, and she was in that group with her best friend and her sister and her boyfriend. And then there was big fallout, as there is with these sort of like mega stardoms, and she took herself out of the limelight and set up the shop and started selling music rather than making it. But it's got a really, really good story, like around it's almost like a bit of a David and Goliath type thing of like this little ragtag group of like punks and misfits who are running this record store versus the man, like her ex-boyfriend and her sister come back into the picture, and they try and take over the shop, and there's like this whole side story around how the guy that's the ex-boyfriend, who's now like the manager of the sister, he's trying to set up this like AI Spotify type platform to sort of take all the choice out of music and all the nuance, and basically what he wants is people to pay 20 quid a month, press play, and it plays the music based on an algorithm. And obviously that's completely antithetical to what you're doing, which is people are coming into the record store and they're sort of giving you their life story, telling you about how they're feeling and what they need, and then you're trying to match their sort of needs with records that are going to make them happy, basically. And it just does it in a really good way, because it's full of music, like similar to Mixtape. It's built around the music, but unlike Mixtape, it's not licensed music. It's all stuff that's been built for or written for the game. So there's obviously like background. There's this really, I loved it. Adam wasn't as keen as me, but I loved it. There's like this really like catchy indie pop music that plays in the background constantly. But then as you go through the game, you unlock more of the records that are being sold in the shop. So you can start to put together your own playlist based on these like fictional bands that you're selling. So there's like, and you learn about these bands as you go through the game as well. So there's like there's like at the start of the game, there's this pop princess called Mimi, and she's got like 2 records. The second one has just come out, and then as you go through the game, a third one comes out, and the third one is like completely different to what she's written previously. And then it starts to spiral into all these rumors about how she had a ghostwriter that's come on and done the record for her. But it's like that with all sorts of different music. There's like punk bands that you're dealing with, and indie groups, and it's really, really, if you love music, and I think we said previously, like none of us were, other than Steve, were cool enough to hang around in record stores when we were younger. Like it's basically like that. You feel like you're building a relationship with these, not just the people that you're working with, but the customers that are coming in, because they like I said, they're coming in, they're telling you like some quite heavy stuff, and you see them over the game only lasts about 4 hours, but you see them multiple times as the game goes on, and you learn more about what they're doing and how they're getting on. Like there's this guy that comes in at the start, and he basically tells you that his husband has died. He's an old bloke. He's like 17. His husband's passed away, and his husband was really big into music, but this guy never was. But he wanted to find a record that his husband used to talk about, so he could listen to it and feel closer to him. So he gives you like a bit of a description, and you have to go away and sort of sift through the sleeves and the track lists and look at the stuff on the records to try and work out what the right one is. But he comes back a few times, and at one point you're able to sort of matchmaking with another customer who's coming in, like this young girl, and they become friends, and then they start coming back together and they're buying records together, and it's just really lovely. And like I know we laugh about all the different punk genre variations there are, and cozy punk did make me roll my eyes at first, but it is actually genuinely a really good way of describing the game.
Yeah. It sounds nice. Again, not my cup of tea, generally speaking. Like I wouldn't pick it, but it does seem to be like it's funny because he mentions like algorithms. The algorithm is such a dystopian thing, but like we live in it. Like it always makes me laugh how in so many games and so much media now, the algorithm is the bad guy, and we like it's the real world. It's what we live in now. We're all slaves to the algorithm one way or another. But I think that's what these games, like cozy games in general, are a good way to escape from that sort of thing. But then cozy music, like I don't know whether Mixtape is a cozy game, but it kind of is. It's
Jason,
low,
isn't it?
yeah. I mean, it's low stakes. It's not, particularly thrilling and exciting, but it makes you feel things constantly. Like it's a game that constantly, whether that's just like, there's going to be people who strongly relate to games like Waxheads and Mixtape. There's going to be people that, I mean, even stronger than like yourself, Chris, there's going to be people where they've lived something in this and it hits a nerve, and it's, and so I like that element is really nice because it's kind of anti-algorithm. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's not an awful lot, and I mean I'm the worst proponent for games that are algorithm built. Do you know what I mean? I like my Diablos and my explosions and my big AAA stuff, which is just committee designed nonsense to a lot of people. It's sort of the antithesis to the indie game or the cozy game, and I get it, and that's what I'm into. But like, you need this. You need this stuff that is not like the algorithm's not going to throw up Waxheads for me. Do you know what I mean? That's not how I'm going to experience this game. Most people won't.
Yeah.
Which is, I like it. It's a bit of it's a what's the word? Dichotomy.
It's punk.
It's punk. Exactly.
It's cozy punk.
This is what punk is now. It's just anti-algorithm. It used to be anti the man, anti-establishment. That's not what punk is anymore. Now punk is anything that flies in the face of the algorithm. Capital A.
And that's exactly this. Like it's anti-algorithm, it's anti like the man, and like I said, it really is that sort of David and Goliath story, which is what I love. That and like I said, the music as well. The music, I really love. I love the music itself, and I also love how passionate it is as a game about music. Like at the end of after the credits are rolling at the end of the game, it's all done up in this like really cutesy sort of hand-drawn style. They almost look like stickers because they've got like every character's got like a whiteboard around them, like almost like you peel them off and stick them on something. But the developers appear at the end as little stickers, and during the credits they all give you recommendations for some of their favorite albums. I just love that. Like I want to go back and rewatch the credits and pick up some of those recommendations and give them a listen to see what influenced the game. I love the passion on it, and I think it's a good week for. It's been a good week for people that like those kind of games, I think.
Yeah. I always wanted to be cool enough to hang around in a record store. One of my favourite films, like ever, and I know if you look at it now through like a modern lens, it's got issues. The main character in particular has issues, but I don't know if like you guys have seen High Fidelity with John Cusack.
Yeah, John Cusack.
I love that film. Like I've loved it forever. Like and like I said, through a modern lens. The main character is a little bit of a cunt, but like, so is like most characters in it, really. If you like look at it, but it was like one of the Jack Black before he was massive was in it, and like, it's got like, and it really made like that's a game that is a film that Mixtape kind of riffs off in a way. Because if you haven't seen High Fidelity, have you seen that, Kieran? High Fidelity. Nope. So if you haven't seen High Fidelity, it's a similar thing. The guy is making an autobiography. He owns a record store. He flopped out of college. He's had a string of failed romances. His fiance leaves him, and he wants her back. And he decides that he's going to curate his life by organising his ridiculously huge record collection into an autobiographical order. So while he examines all his past relationships through the lens of trying to prove to himself that he wasn't at fault, when generally he was at fault with every one of them just about. It's also got this incredible soundtrack of the time, and sort of, again, if you watched it when it came out, I think it was in early 2000s, or it might have been even late 90s. I can't remember the year it came out, but it was a film that was nostalgic of music that came a decade or 2 decades before, but it also had a lot of stuff that was out sort of then, and like that ties in with like the record shop element of Waxheads, but also like the soundtrack curation of Mixtape. And it just, while we were talking, it just sort of popped into my head, so I went on a bit of a tangent. But that's like, go watch High Fidelity. But
I might do actually, because like I said, I've not seen it. I don't know why. I thought it was like an 80s film. I assumed it was. I didn't realize it was.
No, it's got an 80s vibe, but it's not an 80s film. I'm sure it's like I can't remember the year it came out. I think it must have been late 90s. I would have thought, because of, like I said, it's pre-fame Jack Black. It's John Cusack sort of towards the back end of his sort of romantic comedy heyday before he sort of went into more serious stuff. And it's like Grosse Point Blank era, so it must have been like late 90s. John Cusack's one of those people who's just sort of been good always.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not a film. We should do a film podcast because we could be here forever. But speaking of games that are like films, we weren't speaking of that at all, but it's a good segue. Chris has also been playing a game that doesn't relate to either of the themes that we've been discussing so far, but it is kind of a bit like films, and it is also, you know, and its series is quite analogous to sort of the 80s slasher flick, because it's a Dark Pictures, is that what they're called?
Yes.
It's, Directive 8020, which is the new Dark Pictures. In the new, I mean, where are they on the 8 games now? Because didn't they promise it was going to be an 8-game anthology originally? We must be on about 5.
This is 5, yeah. So this is the start of the second.
So Until Dawn and The Quarry, they're not part of this, are they? They're just very similar games by somebody else. So this is like Man of Medan,
House of Ashes,
Little Hope, and now this.
And The Devil Within is the 4th one, and then they had to break in the series, and now they come back with this one.
Right. Okay. So we are on 5. What's it? This is a sci-fi though, right?
Yeah. So it also was like, I've not played the other Dark Pictures games. I've played obviously Until Dawn, and I played The Quarry. And the
I thought you were a fan of these. I always thought that Chris Hyde was the fan of this.
Well, I am, but then I'm not buying them. We get codes. Chris will get the code, which is fine. But like, it's a lot more mature. Like when you play, like when I played The Quarry, these kind of games, it's the same with films. It's when you're like a bunch of teenagers and they're all just dicks, completely vapid, empty teenagers, and you just don't care if they live or die, and you make your decisions, but you're never like that bothered. I feel like this has really kind of nailed that kind of maturity, and like I cared about them, and it's like a group of like 8 or 9 people like within this story, and I felt like each one got a significant amount of time for you to kind of warm to them. And there's like one of them which is he is a dick because of what happens in the story, but the actual crew of the Cassiopeia, which is the name of the ship, are all like genuinely want to save Earth. I mean, this is a story that seems to be everywhere for like the last 10 years, whether it's Interstellar, whether it's the game I reviewed recently called Aphelion, about the Earth is dying. You need to go and find another planet to sustain human life. So you're on your way, and then this meteor kind of crashes into the ship, and with it is like this alien organism. You don't know what it is at first, but it basically begins to mimic the other crewmates. So like the Thing was like prime inspiration here. Like it's very much of that, where you're playing and you're like, it gets to the points where you don't actually know if you're talking to the real person or the alien mimic. And I really like that idea especially when you're making decisions, because there's literally times where you are choosing who to shoot and you could very well kill the real person. So I think overall there's like 44 possible deaths within the game. If anyone knows any of these kind of games, it's all about keeping everyone alive, and like 44 people is a lot. I think I ended my first run with 2 deaths. A lot of it was down to luck, but like the people dying near the start. It's not like saving it till kind of like the last quarter of the game or last third. People are going all over the place, and it's like I just really loved the story. I think the story is really smart. I liked the visuals. It's very much felt like the thing in terms of like the story, but in terms of the visuals, it was very Dead Spacey, like the way the ship looked and stuff like that. And then the decision making, I feel like the stakes are very high throughout, but it's also like pacing is excellent. Like you slowly start to understand what's going on. You slowly introduce this organism, and then like the whole story based around like most of the crew are all in like hypersleep for 4 years, and there's these 2 sleep technicians which are looking after the ship while they're all asleep, and something happens to one of them, and that kind of triggers the spiral of everyone kind of waking up and finding out something's wrong. And the acting is very good as well. Like there's not a lot of like big names in it other than Lashana Lynch, I believe her name is, who's great. She was in No Time to Die. She was great in that. She's been in a lot of other things. But like just the kind of the twist. There's a massive twist as well, which I didn't see coming. Some people might, but it completely changes the way you view the story and you view your decisions, which I've never really seen them do that kind of thing before in terms of like the stakes of the story and being able to kind of flip it on its head, which is really clever. And then obviously there's multiple endings as well, depending on what your decisions are leading up to it. So the kind of replayability is there. And the whole thing they talk about is this turning point system, which I'm fairly sure the casting of Frank Stone, which they did, which was like the DVD kind of crossover thing, did pretty much this, where you could go back, almost rewind or replay sections. So I don't know, but this turning point, there's so many threads. When you look at it, you zoom out and you can see all like the different pathways. There's so much to it. So there's plenty of replayability, but that only comes whether you're a fan of it and a fan of the story.
Yeah,
I think they've done a good job in the trailers of telling you exactly what to expect. And like the kind of gamey moments feel like a bit more varied. There's more to do. It's not just walk around an area, find the object you need, and then a cutscene starts. Then you might have to make a decision. Like there's kind of all kinds of like bits to do. And then one of the things that does get a bit kind of repetitive is when you have to hide from one of the creatures. So you're like ducking behind like walls and trying to sneak past and stuff like that. That kind of, when you've done that for like the 10th time, you're just kind of a bit like bored of it. But generally, I just think it's a really good game. It's not too long. I think about 7-8 hours long. And it's my favorite one since Until Dawn. But then again, I haven't experienced the whole of the Dark Pictures franchise yet. But yeah, I think it's really good. I really enjoyed it.
It sounds like the best, like it's taken the best bits from the other ones, because I've played all of them. I love the Dark Pictures, and I know that they aren't looked on as fondly as Until Dawn and The Quarry. I know Lyle's not a particular fan of them either, but I think like you said before about like not necessarily using teens and using characters that maybe are a bit more established. They did that with the latter 2 games in the first set of Dark Pictures. I think it works so much better. Otherwise, it feels like they're almost retreading the ground from the bigger games, Until Dawn and The Quarry. And it just doesn't. You don't necessarily get enough time with the characters as you do in those longer games to warm to them. And I think sometimes the stupid teens are maybe they take a little bit longer to sort of
absolutely
to sort of like them. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have got it. I've not had a chance to play it yet, but I love those games. I'm curious to see what they did with the curator as well, because I think it was Pip Torrin was like the museum curator in the first 4, but he's passed away now, so I wasn't sure what they've. Do they still have like a character, like a librarian curator character that sort of appears at the start and end, or is that?
No, there's no real character. It's set in like chapters. Like it feels like a TV show where your first episode will end and it ends with one of the characters of the ship like narrating for like a few seconds, and then it ends with like a song. Weirdly, like an actual song by an actual band. But there isn't even a soundtrack to this, which plays at the end of each kind of chapter. But there's no like start and no like you say, no narration really, other than Isley, one of the characters who talks a little bit at the end of each chapter.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Supermassive, they do one thing very, very well, and I think this is it, isn't it? I've liked every single one of the I don't even know what you call them. The adventure games,
I guess, yeah.
I've never played them. I've always no. I'm not a horror fan, and they do tend to have like a horror. They lean horror. I know they're not particularly. I know I played a chunk of Until Dawn, and I watched my daughter and people on YouTube play The Quarry, and so I've got experience of it. I know what it is, and they're the sort of games that I'll gravitate towards, like a let's play of now and then when I've got nothing to do, like I did with Dead Space and Alien Isolation, because I literally physically can't play horror. But like, so I just haven't. But I've always been interested because I don't like horror games, but I like horror films. I don't like modern horror. I don't like the gore and torture stuff that seems to pervade like modern films. I don't like any of that. It doesn't do anything for me. But I like the slasher stuff. I like when you used to go back and watch like the Scream era stuff and things like that. Never always in a Scream era, but like that sort of thing I like. So like Until Dawn intrigued me. I didn't like the movie. I watched it. It wasn't great, but the Until Dawn intrigued me. The Quarry did because it's werewolves, and werewolves are cool. And like the Man of Medan stuff, I've always just been interested because the stories look interesting. Because they usually tend to be a little bit different. Like the Man of Medan, that was the one with like an abandoned boat, and then there was like, what was the one with was it House of Ashes? It's the one in Egypt.
Yeah, set in like an underground catacomb, and then
which is it's just interesting. It's an interesting setting. It's different. So I get the appeal of this franchise. I've never dipped my toes in it. And like 80/20 is one that for me looks most like something I would play because it's got like it's like a thing, and it's got like an alien feel to it in the trailers, and I like those films. I like the deep space horror stuff. Like I like Event Horizon and and I like Sunshine and Life. You know those like Sunshine's a great film. It's not a horror really until the last 20 minutes, but like that element where you've got a bunch of people who are like trapped in a can in space, and it's like you literally have you're not getting rescued. Do you know what I mean? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And that kind of claustrophobic thing where you don't need necessarily gore and torture and that sort of thing in a situation like that, because the situation is scary enough. If one person goes bonkers, it's a scary thing to sort of be trapped up there. So I'm intrigued by it. Look, I don't know if I'll get round to it or if I'll ever play it. It's not something that I'll sort of prioritize, but it looks good.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's we've exhausted 3 games, and it's because we haven't got Steve here waffling.
This might be the episode with the highest average score for all the games that we've covered, because we've got 2 10s and a 9.5 there.
We have, yeah. You give Waxhead a 10? I hadn't seen.
That was my first 10.
I've been around. Was it?
Yeah, I loved it. Like
Nice. And I knew Mixtape was getting a 10. And I had seen that 80/20 got a 9.5. I've had a few 9.5s this year. It's been a pretty strong year so far.
Very good, yeah.
For games all round.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we got anything else to talk about before we sign off? We got anything else we've been playing that we want to dip our toes into, or should we just jump over and do the bonus for the patrons?
I've got nothing here.
I've only been playing anything that was on my deck for this, and I've only got old stuff. I say old. It's like Ayuden Chronicles. I played a couple of hours of, and I ended up playing The Witcher 3 because it's on the Steam Deck, and I'd been watching some YouTuber play Lords of the Fallen, and I thought I'm going to install Lords of the Fallen on my Steam Deck, and then the Wi-Fi was so bad I couldn't. So I've got like 30 games installed on my Steam Deck, and I was like, what have I got that similar in any way to Lords of the Fallen? And it turned out I had nothing. So I ended up putting The Witcher 3 on because I felt like playing a third-person adventure game for a couple of hours, and then I sort of dropped back into sort of Mandragora and I played some of the beginning of Replaced again, and it was like one of those things where every night I was like, everyone else has gone to sleep and I'm the only one left awake. I'm like, what am I going to play? And I just go, I'll just play that for a bit, and then I ended up playing Dead Zone Rogue for ages, which I got really into.
Nice, bit of a mishmash then.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on now. I just installed Albion Online, which I haven't tried yet. Obviously, I played Mixtape. I just installed Street Fighter 6 for some unknown reason last night because the Street Fighter trailers got me. Like Mortal Kombat 2's out now, and I want to jump into Mortal Kombat 2 because I like what they did with Mortal Kombat. I like Carl Urban. I like this universe they've created for the TV, for the films. It's quite faithful while telling its own sort of story. I really like that. But that Street Fighter trailer, the latest Street Fighter trailer with what's going on sort of in the... It's just like, I just keep watching that trailer. Because I really liked the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter back in the day. It's an atrocious film with just some of the best so bad it's good moments of any 90s film. It's got some performance, like Raul Julia was just fucking unforgettable in that film. And
it's got such like a B-rate cast other than like Simon Callow, who's like this British thespian.
Yeah.
And I forgot he was in it. I'm like, that must be a regret, surely.
And then it's got like Van Damme, who like at this point was like writing his own checks.
Yeah.
And then like, who should we get to play the British Special Forces soldier? We'll get Kylie Minogue can be Cammy. Why not? Do you know what I mean? It's so random. But then you've got May, what's her name? Remind me, who plays Chun-Li. Why can't I remember her name? I love her. I'm going to have to look it up because I love the actress and my mind's gone blank.
I've never seen that film.
Really?
I've seen a bit of a different Street Fighter film. There was one that had Lana Lang from Smallville in it, I think.
Oh, right.
I've seen some of that one, but I never saw the old one.
You're not missing out, mate. It's not one to watch.
Ming-Na Wen, sorry. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and various other things. She's wonderful. Oh, you should watch it, Kieran. Absolutely. It's a terrible, terrible film. It really is quite shockingly terrible. They sort of split down the middle, this movie, between how can we make these characters real world, but it also all looks ridiculous. Like the Special Forces is like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they've got this ridiculous fucking urban camo that is like brightly coloured. It's like light grey fatigues with like bright red and blue, and like it's the weirdest shit. And then like Dal Sim is just like a geneticist who's working on Blanca, who's just
that's shit in itself. Blanca's like one of the characters you want to see.
Yeah, and
he's not even fucking in it. It's like there's one shot of him being green. It's like
and he's just a dude painted green, and because the experiment went wrong. And then like Zangief is like just hilarious in everything he comes out with. And then you've got like Chun-Li's a reporter, but also and it's like I don't think there's even a Street Fighter contest. They've just thrown all these characters into this like weird 90s action movie that makes no fucking sense against like this. Raul Julia plays M. Bison, and he's just fucking phenomenally fucking good in it. And you can tell that he must have got the script and just gone, I don't know what the fuck this is, so I'm going to do whatever. And they just rolled camera and gave him no notes. It's like that, like all the way through it. And it's bonkers. But I can't recommend it and say it's a great film, but you'll have a great time if you watch it.
This film will be great. It will be great. This
film, the new one, looks so good. It just looks really, really like even just the trailers. How much pure Street Fighter stuff they put in the trailer, like kicking the car to bits, and like there's a fireball in it at one point, and there's Yell Shuro again when he does the uppercut, and like all these little things. Blanca is fucking Jason Momoa.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and like. Yeah. The last playing Chun-Li looks incredibly good, like in the role. You can see Vega in the trailer. Fucking 50 Cent's Balrog, for fuck's sake. That's like the weirdest thing.
50 Cent's in it?
50 Cent's Balrog.
I need to watch this trailer.
Oh, watch the trailer. Seriously, it's such a good trailer. I keep watching it. Obviously, they've gravitated back to Ken and Ryu being the main characters, or it seemed like Ken Masters seems to be central.
Yes, he does.
To the plot, and like it looks like he was an ex-champion. Now he's washed up. Ryu may have been a teammate of his, or a sparring partner, or maybe whatever, the guy who took the title from in the first place. I don't know, but it throws these two together in the middle of this, and there is a Street Fighter contest, and it's got like Akuma's in it, Guile's in it, Kami's in it, but it's like they look like they're here for a fighting contest, but it's really flamboyant. Everybody's wearing what they should be. Yeah. Dalsim's a stretchy dude. Do you know what I mean?
Honda's in it.
Yeah, Honda's in it. Yeah, Blanca's in it, and he's a huge.
Zangief's like massive.
Yeah, and he does the double pile driver move in the trailer. It's just, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenally good trailer. I can't wait till October to watch that. So I ended up downloading Street Fighter 6 because I just wanted that, because the aesthetic is the games.
Yeah.
But in such a cool, like, fantasy, like it's contemporary. It's now. I think it's actually set in the 90s because it's got an MTV. I think it's actually set in like 94 or something, which is thematic, I guess. But it looks like a really modern, really glossy, like over the top special effects. And I just think it's either going to be really, really good, or it's going to be so bad, but you won't care because it nails all the stuff it has to nail. It looks like that kind of video game adaptation. So I can't wait. I think that looks really good. Because I really like Mortal Kombat. I only watched it first at Christmas when I got hold of a DVD.
I like that.
Before it was on stream. Then it went to streaming when I bought the DVD of it. But I really like that. And I haven't seen the second one yet, but I will watch the second one. Because I thought they did that really well.
Yeah, definitely.
New characters notwithstanding or whatever. But anyway, we have waffled on. We never end when I say we're going to end. I always have a tangent left in me. But we're going to call it a night because we're going to go and record the bonus pod for the patrons. So hopefully regularly scheduled programming will resume from now on. This will go out. I'm not telling you when it's going out because it's already out if you're watching and listening to it. But the regular pod should be going out on a Monday. The patrons get it a little bit earlier, and then the bonus pod tends to go up on a Wednesday, which is what we're going to go and record now. And yeah, I never know what the lineup's going to be anymore. So who knows who's going to be on next week? I'll be here, and then I imagine Kieran will definitely be here, and then there will be a random selection from Chris, Lyle, and Steve. We'll see. We'll see who cycles in next week. But either way, it's been great. It's been really good to have you on again, Chris. I love it when you're on. It's not very often, and it's nice to be back because I have missed it. So we'll call it a night there. I think that's feels like a podcast to me. I've been Mick Fraser. He's been Chris White. He's been Kieran Singh, and you guys have been lovely. Bye-bye.